this episode of the Better Health podcast, Lynn Forbes and Louisa Zondo open up about the loss of their sons, AKA and Riky Rick respectively. The following program contains mature themes that could be triggering.
Welcome to Better Health podcast with Dis-Chem. My name is Louisa Zondo, and I am sitting here with somebody that I have come to know in very special ways, Lynn Forbes. I am mother to Riky Rick. My place here is going to be primarily that of engaging as a mother.
I like the fact that you're just saying, we are as a mother, because I always think about how we've got so many hats that we actually carry or put on, and we operate in different spaces. But being here as a mother today is probably the most important thing. So anyway, I'm Lynn Forbes, better known as Glammy. Rikhado, my granddaughter, calls me Glammy, and from there onwards, everybody just started calling me Glammy. I am AKA's mom. I say AKA for me is Kiernan Forbes. I've never called my son AKA. And my day-to-day life is about inspiring others. It's about telling stories of my life, and through telling my stories like we're doing right now, hoping to, make an impact on other people's lives.
I think this is exactly what we need.
Yes.
Everywhere. This is exactly what we need, because it inspires us to tell our stories. It inspires us to listen to stories of others and pick up lessons from it and be inspired by that. It is so amazing how much of connection to story people need.
Yes.
And once that opportunity is opened up, you find that people just pour out and they said, I didn't know that this is how I needed to handle this thing that I felt stuck at. But now that I'm listening to what you are saying, I am telling myself and retelling and reviewing my own story and coming to something of better energy around the things that I thought were troubles for me.
I think you and I have very similar kind of stories in terms of our motherhood, and maybe some of the things we're interested in. Maybe we should start our story from where we met. We met when we were training in those 6 months leading up to our Kili climb.
Absolutely.
And we summited together, and on the same day, on the 18th of July, on Mandela Day.
You know, the one thing that I learned from that Kili trek, the mountain just has to allow. Yes. And it might allow on this occasion, but at another, it may not. What really left an imprint in my mind was how people that had been super fit, people who had managed to just go through the training process just like that, with me trailing behind and always coming in last on the day, the mountain didn't allow them to go beyond the points that it allowed them to go through.
I also do, are you correct? And I believe that the mountain, I don't know. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought the mountain has maybe trained us or prepared us for the life mountains that were ahead of us. That's the things we are dealing with now. Because when you climb that mountain, you realize how little you really are, how insignificant you really are in the biggest scheme of things, and how it almost humbles you. I believe that these mountains actually bring so much healing, and that they have prepared us for what we're going through, which I think maybe we need to start looking at our boys and how they, I don't know, how do you remember Ricky? As a little boy, what is he? Is he the firstborn?
No, Ricky is number 2.
Okay, Ricky's number 2. So
eldest is Sheikani, and 4 years older than him. I had my firstborn son quite early in life. I was still in university, and this was just an amazing experience for me. I suppose when you are 19 and you have a baby, there's a lot that is just euphoric and unrealistic, and so you don't dwell on the challenges at that time. So the experience of having this firstborn child with the support all around was just amazing. So going into my senior degree, then I just had this yearning for another child. I just was yearning for another child. And so Rikhado comes out of me and his father preparing, because I just am yearning for another baby. And he then is born. His birth was unique as well, because I had opted to go to a public hospital because I had had an experience I did not like in a private hospital where nobody was attending to me. I had to wait for my gynae to show up.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to go to a public hospital. But it so happened that on this occasion, when Rikhado is going to be born, there is a whole contingent of training nurses that have come from a private hospital and come to gain some real experience in the public hospital. So I'm being asked to breathe in and out, and I have not gone through any of this. I'm being asked to breathe in and out. My back is being rubbed. I'm being moved from one wicker chair to the another, and all of this. And I'm thinking, this is weird, but maybe it's nice. Yeah. So his coming to Earth was quite unique. And the funny part about it is that when he then comes, the first person who comes visiting, close to the visiting hour, is this young man. And the nurses assume it's his father. So fluids and all, he is handed over to this. And this is my sister's boyfriend. He's handed over to Bonga, and that created a very special bond between them. But he was traumatized. He really didn't expect this. No, but that's how uniquely Rikhado starts his life, and he was a very gentle soul, very, very gentle, very, very connected to home. Whereas his older brother was boisterous. He went on adventures with the boys. They had a little crew that went out from morning. You see them at lunchtime. Yeah. After lunch, they're gone. They're visiting people around the area and so on. He liked staying at home. Very, very connected to heart. Very much wanting that very personal connection to people. And he grew up to be like that through and through. He thrived on almost leaning in and mixing the verbal inquiry with everything else, taking somebody's how they are in that way.
Very human, a very human connected person.
Very, very personalized, yeah.
Kiernan was born, I was just turning 19 as well when I had him. So, I left Kimberley and the small town, and I was completely blinded by the big city lights of Cape Town, met his dad, and there I was pregnant,
Yes.
That's how things happened those days. And but anyway, we embraced parenthood, like you said, and Kiernan was born in the same way. He was actually born at the Grooteskier Hospital. It was also a public hospital. I mean, where did the money come from? We were all students at that time. I can remember Tony, his dad, always jokes because he says we paid 27 Rand or something like that for Kiernan's whole birth. He was a cheap baby. When Stefan came, things were a bit different. So he was born there on the 28th of January. No complications. There was at that point it was just a natural, normal birth. You breathe and you push out the baby, and it's done. Yeah. So no fancy cameras, lights, nothing like that. No bells and whistles. Just do your thing, and he was born. And I can remember, it was my first birth, first time I was giving birth, and he was the first grandson. He was the first grandchild on both sides of the family. So he got all the attention, and he took it all in, because Kiernan was a little performer from when he was little. There were two things that was outstanding about him. His general knowledge was always exceptional. He loved reading, and he could read from a very young age. And he was very interested in just general knowledge. So he was very much somebody that would read. He had a stack of encyclopedias. He would read them and he would perform. So he was always the entertainer. And I think that is just something that has then carried through his music. Inspirations also started, his exposure to music started very early on, because his dad sings in the shower.
Yeah.
But he believes, if you speak to Tony now, he'll tell you he's a better singer than Kiernan, and he'll try and prove that as well. So we had a lot of fun in the family. There was a lot of music going on. His dad listened to a wide variety of music. And even now, if you listen to Kiernan's music, there's all of those influences, even in the current music.
It's interesting that you picked up the entertainer streak from from his very early age, from Kiernan's very early age. Because that was not the case with Rikhado. In fact, I remember the first time when he actually shared his voice with us. He was already in high school, and we all said, "Oh, you can sing." We were not aware that he had a voice that could sound good. I had no sense that he was even inclined to go in that direction of being in music and being an entertainer. I just had no sense until after his first post-matric attempt to do a degree, because his dad passed after his matric, after writing matric before he got his results. And he felt compelled to just do something that is conventional. And so he registered for a BA in communications. And that was disastrous. And then he sat me down and asked to please do something different, and asked me to come with him to go to AFDA. And that's where I realized that he is interested in building a career as a creative. And so I supported that. I was working for South African Airways at that time, and I had duty, and they joined. He asked me to buy a beat machine, and I didn't know what this was about. But after some months, he came through and showed me what had happened with this beat machine. Some sounds were coming out that sounded like music. And so I had no clue where all of this was going, really had no clue. But I would always say there's nothing better for anybody in life than to wake up in the morning and say you're going to work. And in actual fact, you are going to do something that you just love to do. And so I would encourage and support, even though I really had no clue where all of this was going.
Kiernan was a little bit of a sneaky one. So to be honest with you, for us in the beginning, we thought they'll get over it.
Yeah.
We leave them, but they'll get over it. But they didn't get over it, because Kiernan, during his high school as a teenager, was not problematic. He was a very easy teenager, because all he did was he was in his room making music. Fruity Loops, I think it was called. Like, Kiernan told me about rap, and I listened. I thought, oh my gosh, my child is a gangster. That's what I thought. I was like, this is going to be a bad situation. But anyway, you learn and you warm up to it, and we were open to listening to him, because they were so set on this. And Kiernan definitely decided he's not going to university. Now, us as parents then, yes, we are going to support you, but you need to have something to fall back on.
Yes.
You need to have a plan B. Eventually he wrote a song just to shove it in our face. There's no plan. He called it No Plan B. So, all I know. But it says this is all I know. Yeah. I think only then did I honestly start believing that this was all he wanted to do. because he enrolled. We did say to him, you had to do something as a qualification. And this is where the sneaky part came in, because he decided to enroll at the Academy for Sound Engineers. Because he was now going to be studied to become a sound engineer. But what he actually was doing is he was gaining access to the studio at the SABC. And he got himself a job there, and he started working with some of the, like, Pro Kid them and, and Cooley and all of those people as producing for them. And that's how he started getting his hands in there. But he was then a producer. He wasn't a hip-hop artist. And he worked and he created jingles for TV ads. But all along, all he was doing was he's getting access to the studios. That was 2006. And then he just put all his energy. He told us, this is what I'm going to do. And then obviously we were fully behind him. And we were always there. But I mean, I really didn't think it would actually become a career. Nobody ever did any of this before in our families. I think 2011 was when he won Best Male or Best Hip Hop or something at the Summers. That was his big victory. But before that, I can remember the first time I thought, oh my word, my child is a superstar. He wasn't a superstar, but for me, he was on Channel O, like victory lap, And so that is how it started with Kiernan. And then from there onwards, it just obviously escalated.
So as mothers, just listening to your story, we somehow find our way of being supportive, being involved, but very much out of the limelight.
Yes.
In order for them to not be concerned about us. But we are watching, we're gathering everything that we can gather about what's happening. And we move with our children through the ups and downs of the industry that they've chosen. And then you get the news, such as you would have on the 10th of February. Can you just share what that was for you?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, as you rightly say, we've always been there for them. We love them. They are children. We go through the ups and the downs, and then something like this happens. So the 10th, so what happened, obviously Kiernan as Cairo with Zintle, with DJ Zintle, and but they not together. They've got a really good parenting situation, and our families get along really well. When Cairo would spend 1 week with her dad and 1 week with her mom, alternating, and when she stays with her dad, I would stay with them for that week, so to help him. And that week, ending on the Friday of the 10th of February, was the week that Cairo and I were with Kiernan. That week, he was just incredible. And in fact, that for a couple of months before that, he was in such a different space, spiritually, just happy, very close to God. He started going to church often, to his home cell group with Cabello. And he was just in a very different, jovial space. We've spent a lot of time, because this was February now. We just had celebrated his 35th birthday on the 28th of January. We've just come back from a family holiday. He's just been on a holiday with Nadia to the States. We've just had Christmas together. So all of that is just that momentum, and he's really looking forward to the new year. And that Friday, let me start on the Thursday night, the 9th. I can remember him and Cairo came back because they just started jiu-jitsu together, and so they've just come back from their class that afternoon, and they were, rolling around, showing the moves that they've learned and all of that. And my sister was visiting because we were going away for the weekend, myself and my sister there. So that is how things are at that time. And that evening, I can remember it was the State of the Nation address. And Kiernan was sitting there, and we were all watching it together. And he said something very interesting. There was a bit of commotion on at the State of the Nation, and he laughed and he said, "This is what you guys are going to be dealing with." But I mean, now it just sounds like he said it as if I'm not going to be here. That night, he told me that I should please, if I could please wake him up in the morning. He wants to greet Cairo. I say goodbye to her and have breakfast with her, because she's now going back to her mom the Friday, and I'm taking her to school. So I wake him up the next morning, and normally it's difficult to get Kiernan to wake up. But this morning he wakes up and he's in the kitchen. He loved cooking, and he makes a breakfast, and the two of them were best. They had the best fun together. So they're laughing, and I'm packing the car, but the dining room is just off the garage, so I can hear them talking, and I can hear him saying to her, "I want you to," I think he helped her read because, she's doing some school reading and they're having breakfast. And in that conversation, I can hear him say to her, "I want you to know that Daddy loves you, and I will always love you." And but he said that often, and they obviously saying goodbye and they're hugging, and then I go with her and I come back, and Nadia was there, and at some point during the morning, Nadia leaves. And my sister, and also that goodbye with Nadia is also, he's very playful, and, the way they can tease each other. And she had this beautiful little giggle around him. And so then she leaves, and my sister and I are leaving to just go to the Mall of Africa because we needed a few things for our trip. And he came into the garage to say goodbye to us. Sorry. And he said to me, "Mom, will you be back before I leave? Because I'm flying to Durban at 3:00. And I said, "I probably won't be." And he then says, "Oh, well, then I won't see you again." And he hugged me. He had the best hugs, not as good as Stefan's, but he had the best hugs. And, my kids are very physical as well, very loving and physical. And he held me and he said, "I love you, Mom, and I won't see you again." And that was my last moment with Kiernan. That was the last time I saw him, and the last time I spoke to him, the last time I touched him, the last time I heard his voice, because normally he would let me know. He knew it was important for me to let me know when he arrives. He would always phone. He wasn't a texter. He would phone and say, "Mom, I'm here, I'm safe." Or he would update me during the day what's happening. And he was very good at that because he knew I needed that to know that he's safe. And this day he actually never did, but maybe because we were on our way on a trip and I was with my sister, and maybe he thought it was unnecessary. So we then went to my cousin, them who live in Pretoria, and we were staying over with them that night, and on that Friday evening. And we went to dinner that night and came back to my cousin's house probably around 10, and we was just sitting. I can remember I was sitting with a glass of wine, everybody's sitting, and my brother-in-law got a phone call from Stefan, my son. And I saw him getting up and walking out, and I just heard him say, "Hi, Steph," and I obviously knew that he was on the phone with Stefan, but I promise you I didn't think anything about it because they talk to each other all the time. And then we continued the conversation, and he came back. I didn't look at him. He just came around, but he didn't go and sit next to his wife where he was sitting. He came and sat next to me, and he put his arms around me from the back. Now, again, it's not a strange thing. We have that kind of relationship in our family, but he wasn't that physical with me. And I looked, but I saw my sister's facial expression changing, and I knew something was wrong because she said, "Trevor, what's wrong?" And I looked at him, and his face, the expression on his face, I knew something bad happened. But I asked, is it Mom? Did something happen to my mom? And he looked at me and he said, "It's Kiernan." I don't know what happened. I don't know, my body kind of, I don't know. It was so surreal. I don't think I registered what he was saying. He said it was Kiernan, and I didn't know what he meant. And I said, "What's wrong with Kiernan?" And he said he got shot. And I feel now that your body there's almost like something that kicks in to protect you. I don't know if you felt it. It's almost something that kicks in, that protects you from this absolutely devastating news. Because now he still hasn't told me he died. He said he was shot. Yeah. And I said, I don't think I said it, but in my mind, I'm thinking we need to go. Because in my mind, he's somewhere and he needs me and I have to go. And I said, I can't remember what I said, but the next thing I hear him said he's gone. And I don't know. I can't remember. I think the next thing I was on the floor, I think I was just screaming.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't process it. I literally couldn't process it. Thank you. It is just the most terrible thing. It's the most devastating thing that's ever happened. And I think at that point, it just becomes this chaos in the room. And I can remember Stefan arriving. I can remember getting in the car, going home. But all of this is almost like just a movie playing in my head. That was the night. That was how it happened. And I think, and obviously then later on things happened. But in that moment, as we drive even, I keep on asking them to phone again. Can you guys just phone again? I said, Trevor, can you just phone again? And he says, Lynn, he's gone. Yeah. But I don't have any detail at this. All that I'm hearing is he's gone. And I don't know.
Thank you for sharing that, Lynn.
Yeah. Can you share how you got the news?
Bianca, Rikhado's wife, calls to say, Mama, I am scared. I am at Rikhado's studio and I can't access it. Please come, Mama. And her voice starts quavering, and I realize that it's serious. And I ask her to please lean on prayer. Just lean on prayer. I'm going to make my way there. And at that time, as that message comes through, there's almost a whirring sound. I don't know whether it's in the ear or through the whole body, but
yeah, I know.
A whirring sound. I don't know how to stop it, but it's there. And so I try when I get off the call from B, immediate thing to do is to tell the colleague who's sitting next to me, and I put it in these words. A family member is in trouble. I have to go and see about it. I'll be back. And I get up. I'm willing my legs to carry me because everything is just out of normal filter. Yeah, it's just out. And I walk outside and tell the person who was responsible for organizing things that I need her to please organize a car because I didn't drive the car to take me to Rikhado's studio. I didn't say Rikhado's studio. Take me to where my family member who is in trouble and needs attention. I'll be back. But I remember this constant restating of I'll be back. Like I'll be back to
it will be okay.
As I am driven by this young man, Sibusiso Zulu is driving me to the studio. I get a call that then tells me that they've managed to open the door to the studio and they found him. He's hanging from the rafters in the studio. And at that point, the news is he's gone. And I can hear it, but I don't know where it's coming from. There's this bellowing, beastly sound that comes out. And I am crying at the back of this car. And then I suddenly realized that young man doesn't even know what's going on. He doesn't
Know what you're crying about.
and he's driving in traffic, and so the words come out, my son is dead. And I think that's something in me communicating to the young person so that he knows, yeah. And I don't know how long it goes on for. Then another call comes in. No, before a call comes in, I then sit up and realize that I've got to do things. First thing I do, I'm calling my eldest son, Shekani. I'm calling Rikhado's aunt, Denga. I am doing all those things now. And then a call comes in. B is telling me that Beggy and the Major League Twins are driving him to hospital. Now that gives hope. I'm thinking, they're going to hospital, so he might still have a chance. So Sibusiso is redirected because of that call to Waterfall City Hospital. And there's hope now as I get off the car and he's turning around and I walk down. As I enter the patio, Shekani calls my elder son and says, "Hi, Mama, he didn't make it." At that moment, I was down, prostrate like that. And I come to a sound of prayer, calling upon Jesus. And it turns out Sibusiso, as he was turning his car around to go to the exit, saw me go down on the ground, and he comes and he prays over me. I just don't know how to put it in words, but that moment it felt like I am being lifted from this place of being flat on the ground. And the hospital staff come with a wheelchair to get me onto it. I think that's protocol for them. And my response to them is, you see over there, I'm pointing to the emergency side. There are young people there. They are in trouble. I need to go and be there for them. I need to be support for them. And I need to get there on my 2 feet. So I walk from this point onto the point which is in front of the emergency room, and I just hug the young people, and I can see the devastation. And I then walk into the resuscitation room, where he's lying on a steel table. And just to go back, I had never been able to engage with bodies, and so even at funerals, I would not go through the viewing. But in January of 2018, I had the experience of being in the room when Kumi's sister passed. Okay. So she gave me the gift of not, losing everything at the sight of a body. And I was able to stay with my son. I was able to take him in. I was able to pray around him. And I felt strength. And I felt his communication. At that point, even though things were in a mess with me, it truly was a release. I was able to release. I was able to make stories. I was able to make a story which was real for me at the time. It came from me just observing the way in which his hands were positioned, where one one hand, the right-hand side was completely open, and the left had a bit of a clench, a little slightly open like that. And the story for me was, I did what I came for. There's a bit, though, that needs still to be done. Can you all help with it? And so I was able to spend time with him. And so when I came out and went to the young people outside again, I was able to just be there. And it was a lot of doing. I now had to call people. I'm calling my friend, my best friend, Oli. I am saying, Oli, you need to help me. I tell her, and I need her to help me with telling my sisters, because they are both in Centurion, and I just can't imagine telling them over the phone. So she brought in support and drove through to let them know. My husband, Kumi, was in Germany. He was on a fellowship. Now I have to tell him. And so I go through that process of sitting him down and letting him know and hearing his complete breakdown on that. But the thing about it also is that I think it's this thing of the capacities of the mind and the body kicking in and helping us to be what we need at the time. And so that takes about an hour or so. We are in the space more than an hour. And my friends make their way to the hospital. At that point, we are trying to get home so that when the kids are brought home from school, they find some normalcy, and it is us who break the news in a normal way. But I'm saying us just because we were accompanying Bianca. We are going towards the parking lot, and my friends see us and they come out, and they break my heart. Literally, it felt like there was this pain in my chest cavity. It's like when the pillar that you lean on presents itself, you just let go of everything. And I think that's what happened to me when my friends, my secret pals came.
Then you could let go.
I could let go, and I broke, and there was literal pain in my chest. So, yeah, that was the beginning of a process that continued to be unbelievable. That you say you kept on asking for Kiernan to be called. For me, it was a constant thing that kept on happening. I would suddenly jolt up to realize that I'm asking that question, what's happened? And suddenly, out of the blue, I would then have to bring back the remembrance that Rikhado is gone.
You know, I'm just thinking about how you talking about how you needed to be there. Because in that moment, for me, obviously it was different. He was in a different city, and I had where you were for a time by yourself, and you almost feel like you have to be the person that is doing things. There's so much doing. I had my sister with me already, so I could literally let go from the start. But I'm thinking also how, obviously there was a time when you had to tell the children, and there was a time I had to tell Cairo, and how you go through another very devastating thing, because telling those children, their father, and I know Ricky had an amazing relationship with his kids, and Kiernan had that relationship with Cairo, and sharing that news was another really difficult thing to do. But I'm also, and I mean, we don't necessarily have to go into the details of that, but I think it's just about being honest. For me, it was about just being, for us it was, so Zintle couldn't. She just couldn't do it. And I had to go the very next morning, on the Saturday morning, and speak to Caro. And really it was just basically not saying Daddy went to heaven. It's about being very honest and saying your dad died. What's the question? What happened? He got shot. And it's not that clinical. It is the way you go through that process, telling that child in the gentlest way, but giving her the most devastating news of her life. She basically couldn't grasp it. She understood what we were saying, but minutes later she would say, but he's coming back, isn't he? And I don't know how that was for you.
No, we had to sit with the children. So they come back from school on that day, the 23rd, and B, my sister Jackie, two of B's close friends from childhood, Meru and Tanu, and myself, sit down with them there on the couch, and we sit almost making a circle around them. And the most important thing is to be honest.
To be honest.
And not to make any promises that are not real, just to be absolutely honest. So all of this honesty in telling the children was critically important, allowing them to experience the emotion of that message about the loss is real, it's important, allowing them to be assured of things not devastating their life. So that assurance that their life continues. I don't know where Bianca got the wisdom from, but this is what she just
told them the truth.
She just communicated all those things. She told them about the fact that Ricky is gone. He died. He's no longer coming. You're going to be sad. We're all going to be sad. We're going to go through everything together. Nothing's going to change. Your school is going to be okay. Home is going to be okay. Things are not going to change. Because for children, that's something I have come to learn after, going through material and so on. They quickly link everything to the devastation that they are expecting. They put in their own blame. They put themselves in the place of blame. They go into real catastrophic and disastrous thinking about how life is going to be. And being provided real assurance at that time becomes very important. And Bianca did that for the kids. And the disbelief is going to be there.
Yeah.
Just as it is there with us.
With us.
They will be constantly needing to take reality checks about what they are going through. And so that was so.
I think when I got the news of Ricky's death, Melanie Ramji actually phoned me. And I called, but I think before I could even call Kiernan, he called me. And I can remember something that he was, the utter devastation for him. He was completely broken by Ricky's death. But he spoke to me, maybe not on that day. He spoke to me about mental health. Because remember at that time, when Ricky died, Kiernan had lost his girlfriend a couple of months before. And he was going through his own really dark time. And he's talked about the depression he went through. And one thing he said to me, he said, it's very difficult to be a man and not being able to express what you're dealing with. Because the world expects you to just carry on. And even when you try and share your troubles with the men around you, mostly you just get, come on, a pat on your back, come on, you can do this. come on, you need to, it's almost you just need to, shake it off and you can do it. And so that was one thing that I believe. So for Kiernan at the time, dealing with his girlfriend's death, dealing, with all the social media attention around that, and not just the social media attention, but the how social media positioned and, her death around him.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health issues and is in need of help, visit sadec.org or call 080-012-1314. You are not alone.